Hello everyone, I'm Dalton Burdett,
I am Ryan Warner.
and we are the Movie Nights. Well, some of them. If you're listening to this, it's because you want to hear our uncensored and unfiltered thoughts and opinions about the world of movies. We got some decent stories to talk about in the world of movie news today.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. A lot of good stuff.
First thing we're going to do, as we always do, is bring up the weekend box office report.
I can already tell you Endgame came in at number 1. It's going to be a while that it's going to be taken down.
I think it'll be next week.
Yeah, John Wick.
Which would be cool. But if it doesn't, if it survives number 1 against John Wick, then Aladdin is getting it for sure.
100%.
All right. Number 1 was Avengers Endgame, taking a 57% drop from last week, racking in another $63 million.
I can't believe 53% is still $63 million.
I know, it's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu came in at number 2, racking in about $58 million, which is a pretty solid opening for that film.
Yeah.
Coming in third was The Hustle with $13 million, which is a little bit disappointing, considering I think the studio projected a little bit higher. Coming in at fourth was The Intruder, making another $7 million, and coming in fifth was Long Shot, racking in another 6, only dropping 35% from last week.
Not bad.
Yeah, but it had a really weak opening, so hopefully it can stick around in the top 5.
Has some legs.
Yeah, I mean hopefully, because it's a really great film if you guys haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, are you surprised about the box office? Anything you want to add?
The only thing I'm surprised about is that on the homepage of Box Office Mojo for like big movies, it usually has like comparisons, and of course everyone's comparing money-wise, numbers-wise, this movie to Star Wars: The Force Awakens, domestically at least. The whole time Avengers has been open, or it's opened, every day, every weekend, it's surpassed The Force Awakens. Today, I think, is the 17-day total on Box Office Mojo. Star Wars has higher numbers 17 days in.
Yeah, no, I don't think Endgame is going to get anywhere near its domestic record.
No.
And Avatar is not a guarantee now. I think it'll happen.
No,
but,
especially not after, not a weekend, but not as strong as people had thought.
Yeah, because like right now it's just shy of 2.5. I think it's like 2.48 worldwide, and that's still another almost 3-4 million that it has to make.
Granted, Avatar was in theaters for 12
million,
weeks, something like that.
I don't know.
It was in theaters for a while. I know that. Avengers is in its third weekend.
That's
and
true.
It's already in its second all-time grossing spot.
That's true, but it also opened everywhere at once.
Yes.
Avatar would stick around, and then it would open somewhere else, and then it would continue, and then it would
so
open somewhere else,
bump.
and then it would bump.
Okay.
Yes. Where the Avengers, it's downhill from here.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, at first I thought it was a hard no, then I thought it was a hard yes, and now it's a hard maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think next weekend is really going to be the determining factor, depending on how much money it makes. Because, I mean, what may end up happening just from working at a movie theater and like seeing how things go box office wise is that if John Wick sells out enough, people are going to go watch Endgame.
And the Endgame is going to be in theaters for a while because of how much money it's making.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to be on that random Wednesday that people will start going to Endgame more and more. So we'll see.
I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out a few more times. I mean, I've already seen it 3 times.
I'm going to see it at least one more time. I've seen it twice already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So probably 5 more times, I think, for myself.
Very stoked for John Wick, though.
Yes.
And that's getting insane reviews. I think it's at a 98%.
Which is funny, because I thought it was going to open up to like 70%, somewhere in like the low...
No, sir.
Yeah.
Much higher.
Good for them, though. They deserve it.
Love that franchise.
But, what's up next?
Right now, we're going to get into our first story. Do you remember a few years back, maybe 2 years ago, when Liam Neeson said, "I'm done doing action movies"?
Yeah.
Well, not true, because Liam Neeson is set to star in action thriller The Minuteman. This is coming to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Voltage Pictures, which I've never heard of, will
I think they do a lot of Nick Cage movies.
No, they don't.
I swear to God.
I hope this is a straight-to-DVD movie.
I know they did Bangkok Dangerous.
Oh my God.
They just did another movie that I just watched. I can't remember what it was, but it was actually a pretty decent-sized movie. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to read the details on the movie now, but the premise sounds cool. It's about a Vietnam veteran caring for a young boy being chased by the cartel.
Yes.
That sounds rad, but I hope it's not straight to DVD. Go ahead and just give your thoughts on the premise, and I'll look up some of the information.
Yeah, so as you guys may have picked up, I'm a really big Liam Neeson fan as far as his movies go. Like, A-Team is probably one of my favorite all-time movies, and he, of course, plays one of the leads in that movie. And I watched. I haven't seen all the Taken movies, unfortunately, but I think I know I've seen one. I might have seen two, but I think he's just like a fun action star to watch. Like he just, like, not that he doesn't care, but he has fun with it, and you can see it. And I thoroughly enjoy watching actors have fun with their roles. Like Cold Pursuit, we watched earlier this year. Absolutely loved him in that.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal,
Mhm.
and you could just see that, like, the environment he was in, he was just having fun with it.
Yeah, and I looked a bit more into the report. It's directed by the guy who directed Trouble with the Curve. Did you ever see that movie?
Never heard
It
of
was
it.
a baseball movie with Clint Eastwood in it and Justin Timberlake
Okay.
and Amy Adams.
Oh, odd cast.
It was a cute little movie,
Yeah.
and it was fine. So I'm curious to see his skill set for this particular film.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I think it's going to either premiere at Cannes or it's being shopped around at Cannes. So, yeah. So
For
either
next year or for this year?
for this year.
It's going to be premiered at Cannes.
I think so. I think that's what it says.
So they already have it made? That's
Oh, I think they're either shopping around the rights to it at Cannes.
Oh, for someone to pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
makes
means
a lot more
means
sense.
clearly they're looking for theatrical distribution or a streaming platform. And
Sure,
they
sure.
don't want to go straight to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it just based off the premise, and hopefully it gets a nice theatrical release. If not, if it goes on Netflix, I'll watch it, or Hulu, whatever. But yeah.
Cartel chasing after a boy, and he's a Vietnam veteran. That's gonna be very fun, very action packed. Like just from that description alone, it's gonna be action packed, which I'm very, very excited for.
It's gonna be the bee's knees,
The cat's pajamas.
cat's pajamas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Next is a sort of a sad story. Alvin Sargent, I think it's pronounced Sargent, is a legendary screenwriter, famous for writing movies such as Paper Moon, What About Bob. He was a credited writer on all.
He
of
wrote What About Bob?
Yep,
I love that movie.
and he's a credited writer on all of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies.
He's credited what?
A credited writer on all of them.
Oh wow.
And he wrote a movie called Ordinary People, which I'm going to get into in a second. But he has passed away at the age of 92. Hell of a life. Look at those fucking writing credits, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. And it's unfortunate to hear about his passing. I love the Spider-Man trilogy. What About Bob is a very good movie. But I'm going to talk about Ordinary People just because it might seem wrong me using his death to highlight that film, but I want to talk about the film now that, we have an occasion to bring it up.
Yeah.
But before I get into my talking about that movie, do you have anything that you want to say about his passing?
I mean, it's unfortunate whenever anyone dies, but 92 is a very long life, and he definitely did a lot of work, and definitely was very busy with his life, having those credited to his name. I can't speak for Ordinary People, was it?
Mm-hmm.
But what about Bob? I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thought that movie was phenomenal, both the writing, the story, everything about that. And of course, that's all coming from his mind. And then, of course, the Sam Raimi trilogy. Love it. So I'm not familiar with a whole lot of his work, but it's always unfortunate whenever someone passes.
Yeah, and a testament to what a great writer he is the film Ordinary People, which I believe came out in 1970, and it won the Best Picture Oscar that year. And I believe Robert Redford won Best Director too. It's directed by Robert Redford. Yeah, look all that up for me when you can. But Robert Redford actually directed the film, and it's an extraordinary movie. The premise of it is about a family who kind of gets torn apart because they have two siblings about our age, maybe a little bit older, and the favorite child dies in a boating accident, and the one that's left is the non-favorite child to the mother. The father kind of loves them both equally, but the mother really, really loved the other son, and it is just emotionally wrecking him that the mother clearly wishes he had been the one who had passed away in that accident. And it's a heart-wrenching movie, and it deals with mental health, and it's like early in 1970, deals with mental health and just the seriousness of the importance of having a family and wanting to love it. Like, pretty much the arc, the whole movie for the main character is he just wants his mom to love him. And this movie is extremely well made, and I think it's a movie that would be ripe for a really good remake if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that story is still relevant. You can even modernize some of the themes or some of the character traits in the film
Mm-hmm.
to fit that relative time gap. But it's an extraordinary movie, and if anyone has never seen the movie Ordinary People, it is absolutely fantastic. And I don't know where you can find it. I doubt it's streaming, but I highly, highly recommend Ordinary People, and watch it for the memory of Alvin Sargent. And just such a phenomenal screenwriter and such a phenomenal film.
Yeah, no, after you giving the description of the movie, I remember us talking about that movie, and it was something I'm very interested in seeing. I just can't remember the title. But it actually did win 4 Oscars. It won Best Picture, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Director, which was Robert Redford, and then he did win Best Writing based from another medium.
Best Adapted Screenplay.
So, and it had 2 other nominations, which were Actress and Actor. Actress was in a leading role. Actor was in another supporting role. So it must be a stacked, well done movie through and through. So
it's a phenomenal film. It's probably one of, I have like 100 movies in my top 10, and that's probably one of them.
Yeah. Struggles of being a film fan, man.
Struggles of being a film fan. But that was a story that you brought up right before the show started.
Yeah, right before the show started, I was scrolling around on Twitter and found this very, very intriguing article that the Hollywood Reporter put out. The title, or the headline for the article, is George Clooney advised Ben Affleck not to play Batman. As we all know, George Clooney played Batman and Batman and Robin in 1997. Received a lot of backlash. Some was...
It killed comic book movies for a hot minute there.
Yeah. Got a lot of backlash.
And it was almost 10 years before another Batman movie was even touched.
Yeah.
8 years.
And it was probably a while before George Clooney was really taken seriously, right?
I think 2007 was when Good Night and Good Luck came out, or 2005. And that's when, because he directed that film, and that's when people really...
So almost, not quite 10 years, but like 8 years, 9 years?
Yeah.
So almost a whole decade before he was really taken seriously again, which is...
I mean, he had a good role in between there, but that was like the,
like, hey, this
George
is...
Clooney.
Yeah. Which is very unfortunate that, film fans can be very toxic, and the film community can be very toxic.
The film industry can, too.
Yeah.
That's kind of what hurt Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but basically, like, what the article is saying is that George Clooney and Ben Affleck worked on Argo together, which Ben Affleck directed and starred in, and George Clooney produced it. And whenever Ben Affleck was taking this role, George Clooney was like, hey, I advise against it. You're not only taking on a role, but you're taking on a whole film. Like, you become Batman when you become someone so iconic.
People see you as the responsibility of the film that you're in.
Exactly. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, this whole idea of taking on a role and then bearing the weight of the whole film whenever you're just an actor taking a job. Like, what are kind of your thoughts and opinions on whether it's this scenario or anything else you may see or anything like that?
And it's a great story and point that you bring up, but I think that it's unfortunate when actors are seen as the be-all, end-all in a film, and they're either blamed or given the credit for the film's success or failure. Because a lot of the times it's an actor who either A, needs the money, or B, just really, really, has an integral connection to the character that they're going to be playing, and they really want to take on this role and do it justice. And sometimes it's a bit of both, and sometimes it's greed. There's several reasons as to why.
Yeah, experimentation.
Yeah, and part of the reason that people feel this way about movies like Batman v Superman with characters like Batman is because, they've grown up with that character. They've been reading comics since the 1930s. They've been, watching cartoons, seeing Adam West, years of this character, that they feel like they have a sense of ownership over that character. Please don't mess up the thing that I love so much and that helped me. And you see this with Star Wars, you see it with Marvel, DC, and there are several. And if the Pokemon franchise continues to be successful, you'll see it with that too. We've already seen it with Sonic, which we discussed last week.
Yeah.
And I think that it's unfortunate to see, but I understand how it happens. I understand why it happens, and it's unfortunate. And I think part of the reason, another factor as to why this keeps happening, is because of the high salary and high standard actors that's put on actors by Hollywood. Because if you ask me, I think actors are undeniably overpaid. No one should be paid in the millions of dollars to act in a film. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be paid well. They should be, because acting is not easy. It's a whole mental process. It takes years of training, like good actors.
Yeah.
And but that's many jobs. That's what going to school is. That's what practicing is. and not every job is going to get you that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't even get a job that's in your degree.
Yeah.
So I do think actors should be paid well and compensated well and benefited well, but it's ridiculous how much they're paid. And then they're what really drives up the budgets of blockbuster films, is just paying the people in them. And, you know, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of spotlight and a lot of liability put into a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And actors are already pretty, not mentally unstable, but mentally vulnerable, because they sometimes have to put themselves in that place for a role regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get back into the real world and they have to deal with the ramifications of a role that they played, that they worked really hard in bringing to life, sometimes physically, like Ben Affleck worked out months and looked unbelievable for his age, like for that role, just regardless, not even for his age. And that physical transformation, the mental transformation of playing someone as dark and depressed as Bruce Wayne, going through months of filming just to have your film open and be completely demolished. Now, thankfully, and even George Clooney said he was great, and even all the bad reviews for the film are like, Affleck was wonderful in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That still has to hurt to know that you put all your heart and soul into this, and then people see you as part of the thing that failed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really unfortunate thing, and I don't think it's something that should happen, but I'm not surprised that it happens with the pressure put on them by both the audience and the industry. So that's probably my overall thoughts on that whole concept.
Yeah, no, I agree that, I mean, I think actors are paid too much for films. While, like, I agree they should be well compensated for their time, their effort. They have to go through different, like, they have to mentally prepare themselves, physically prepare themselves. Like, they have to go the whole 9 yards. But as far as fans looking at actors taking on the film, I think that's stupid, and they just need to change the way they look at films, because actors work on movies for the least amount of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Directors are there through the editing process, through pre-production, post-production, like they're there through the whole thing. Some producers are more hands-on, like Kevin Feige. Some just kind of like, you know, do your thing. Actors work on it the least amount of time, and
they're paid the most.
They're paid the most, and fans and people, producers, everyone expects these people to carry the weight of the whole film.
And
whenever
like,
it could be a writing problem.
Yeah,
like they could be given terrible lines, and you're like, oh, their acting sucks.
Not always.
It was the writing.
So, I mean, sometimes it is, but sometimes you have an actor just trying their... And it's amazing. It's fascinating to watch movies where actors are giving their heart and soul into a performance, but the writing and the direction is so bad, you're just like, God, I feel bad. They're really trying here. And because I haven't seen the film, so I can't speak for it personally, but that's what I've heard about The Intruder and Dennis Quaid.
Okay.
I've heard that Dennis Quaid knows exactly what movies he's in and is giving the performance like that the role deserves, but everyone else around him is just not up to par. Yeah. And that happens sometimes, and it's unfortunate.
It is. And
the fact that, you know, you brought it up, like, that expectation and pressure is on them.
So that's another thing that they have to bear mentally, because they probably, I mean, today's day and age, they probably know, if I'm going to pick up the role of Superman, everyone is going to view me as Superman, so I have this, like, bar that I have to at least get to, but would like to surpass. Yeah. So that's why they have to, like, give everything they can into it. And that's why I feel like, I'll bring this up, for example, Jared Leto's Joker. Everyone trashed it. Why don't we see more of it? Let's just let him do his thing, because he knows that he is the next Joker after Heath Ledger. He won an Oscar for it, so it's going to be hard to match that. Yeah. So why don't you just give it your all? And a lot of what the problem people had with that was the character itself, which, I mean, I understand why Warner Brothers just wanted to go in a completely different direction, because you don't want to try and copy Heath Ledger. Yeah, of course. And, you know, and I do think that they gave Leto a little bit too much of creative freedom, and as an actor, sometimes you can just do whatever comes to your head. And he's a phenomenal actor. I love him. Oscar-winning actor. Yeah. And I think that there are parts of his Joker performance that I really enjoyed. But a couple things to figure out. One, the story was different when he signed up. Two, there's many scenes that were cut that involve him. And three, he did exactly what he was told to do. Yeah. And it's not like he, like, went off. Yeah, he was given a little bit of freedom in terms of his mannerisms, but
that type of character, the
Mhm.
lines, everything that Joker did and its relevance in the story, he had no control over.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to see him play it again, honestly. But I'm really excited for Joaquin Phoenix as well.
Mhm.
But I would like to see Leto take one more crack at the role, and that's a good example you bring up of just that pressure put on that guy to because he knows I'm gonna get compared to Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
And
As soon as he signed that contract,
Yep.
he knew he was going to get compared from day one, the second it was announced.
yeah. And it's unfortunate because he's not in. The roles are drastically different, not only in terms of the films that they're in, but just the type of character they're playing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And there's so many more examples of that. Like another one that comes to mind is Fan Four Stick. Like
Mm-hmm.
as awful as that movie is, it's not Miles Teller's fault.
nope.
It's not Michael B. Jordan's fault. Like
Yeah.
it's none of their faults. I thought their performances were good for what they were given, but that comes down to the writing
Yeah.
and the direction and the studio behind it. Like
Mhm.
it's a whole chain of events before you
Yeah.
really get to the actors, I feel anyways.
Yeah.
Because a studio and a director can put pressure on an actor and be like, no, this is how it's getting done, this is how it's going to be. And they can still give a good performance like that. But if there's so many other things that are wrong with it, the acting is going to fall off naturally because
Yeah.
you don't have everything else glued together.
Yeah, and funny thing about Fan Four Stick is I actually got to speak with Miles Teller about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we graduated from the same high school. We're not friends, but we talked like twice, and we did exchange emails once, which was cool.
Yeah.
No, but well, I was at an event, and he asked. I'm not going to share what he said. He asked not to, but he kind of got to talk and tell his side of the story of what went on there, and you could tell it was just one of those things where it's like he knew he was in that situation of like this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking for him because the Fantastic Four he mentioned was his dad's favorite comic book, and he got to play a fucking superhero.
Yeah.
So he was like, it was.
He got to play Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's like, it was a heartbreaking thing to go through. But he was kind of hinting like on set, he was like, yeah, it wasn't good. Like you could like he did not have a good time basically, and it was sad and unfortunate. But
Mhm.
and you know that he felt that pressure. As soon as he took on the role,
Yeah.
right before even filming, and that's why people are skeptical of taking big roles like this. It's like the life-changing money, the life-changing fame, and it's like, yeah, but now, if a guy in a random Netflix show gets busted for weed, it's nothing. If Henry Cavill gets busted for weed, Superman smokes marijuana, and
Yeah.
and it's
It's
a
not- it's
whole,
no longer Henry
it's a
Cavill, you are
whole
Superman.
Thing. Yeah, so it's literally giving up whatever, because actors already don't have much of a private life, and it's giving
Yeah.
up whatever was left of it.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny enough because this segues perfectly into a documentary I just watched.
Yes, please talk about that.
So I just watched a documentary called Becoming Bond, which is a Hulu original. So I highly, highly, highly recommend everyone to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the life of George Lazenby, which is the most recent franchise spotlight video we did
Yes.
on Her Majesty's Secret Service,
Mhm.
which I thought wasn't a bad movie. And part of my criticism towards that movie was that George Lazenby just didn't work for me as Bond. I had seen other Bond movies, like I wasn't comparing him to Sean Connery by any sense of the imagination, but he just like something wasn't working for me. So I watched this documentary or a few days ago rather,
Yeah.
and it completely changed my view on him. And part of the reason why he only did one Bond movie, and he says it in the documentary, he says that when he was given the contract to sign on for 6 more films, so he was originally going to do 7 movies. Whenever he was going to sign the contract, he read through it, and it said, you have to do this in your life, you cannot do this, avoid this, you have to look like this. And he had a beard at the time for the premiere, and the producers were like, don't show up to the premiere with a beard because Bond doesn't have a beard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the whole mentality of like, if you take on such an iconic role, you become that person. He basically said, no, F that. I'm going to be George Lazenby because I'm not playing Bond anymore. Like, we wrapped filming months ago.
Yeah.
I'm now George Lazenby. I'm no longer Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the struggle that people deal with now. Like, Henry Cavill is still Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Affleck is still being called Batman.
Yeah.
Even though he has said, I'm no longer Batman.
Yeah.
Like, it's a shame.
He's Batman until they announce who the next Batman is.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it's just a shame that people get, like, not typecasted, but, like...
It's a shame that people are expected to live a certain way because of a role that they've played.
Yes, exactly. When that is just a job they're taking on
Mm-hmm.
for that period, once that movie is out, everyone sees it, they are then themselves.
Yeah.
Like, Henry Cavill is Henry Cavill right now. Ben Affleck is Ben Affleck.
And there are some actors who, and granted, I think part of the reason he got away with this is because of how good he is at his craft. But I think Daniel Day-Lewis, back when he was still acting, he'd make like a movie every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, one, he was always in character when they shot. For like a period of months, he wouldn't even be himself.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying. But then after that, as soon as it was over, he was Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
For like a year and a half, 2 years. And then he'd play another role. And I think that his approach probably has something to do with him realizing, like, yo, I can't go project to project like that and just, you know, be in this mental state and have this pressure put on me. And he was just kind of like, I'm going to be myself for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he'd go back into a role and just fucking nail it. He's such a phenomenal actor. We could do a whole podcast on Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But it's just something that I feel, like, really passionate about. Like, like be yourself. Like, don't, like, easy for me to say, who the fuck am I? You know, like, just, like, it annoys me that people are like, oh, Ben Affleck gets busted. Ben Affleck has a back tattoo, or Batman has a back tattoo.
Yeah, or Batman,
Ben Affleck has a back tattoo,
or
not Batman.
Or Batman's in rehab. That one really, because like, no wonder why so many stars are in rehab and therapy and all these things is because of this pressure that's put on them.
And it's all the media.
And their
like
social life is being presented in front of cameras, in front of everyone.
Yeah, the paparazzi just keep getting them, and it's like, oh no, it's Batman doing this, Batman doing this. No, he was Batman in BVS and Injustice.
No, and I remember Ben Affleck posted a video on his Instagram, and it was him, and the other caption was, I'm just trying to take my kids to church. And it was him getting out of a car at a Boston church, and it was just paparazzi around the entrance.
Oh my god.
And he's just like, I'm just trying to go to church with my kids.
Yeah, like, let him live his life.
Yeah. But I mean, we use Ben Affleck as an example, but it's several stars.
It's anyone taking on a major role.
Going on to our last thing for today, we both saw Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Or Pokemon Detective Pikachu, I guess is what it's actually called.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and give a brief review of that because we're a little bit over time. But go ahead and give your thoughts on English. Go ahead and give your thoughts on Detective Pikachu, and then I'll throw mine in there.
Yeah, so I grew up playing all the Pokemon games and watching the shows and movies. Like, I was a huge Pokemon fan growing up. So naturally, whenever they announced Detective Pikachu, I was even more excited. Whenever they announced Ryan Reynolds was Detective Pikachu, I was even more excited. But, onto the movie itself. Phenomenal movie. Absolutely loved it. Very predictable story. But I don't think that took away anything from the movie, because I think they had to kind of go the predictable route, because video game adaptations to movies are not good. Like, I couldn't even tell you another one that was good. Doom starring The Rock. But it was awesome. It was visceral. It looked beautiful. The CG, the Pokemon looked real. Like this world they built looked real and authentic, and it looked phenomenal. And just the opening scene of showing the world, I was blown away by it and how good it looked. The only thing I will say that it didn't hinder the movie in any way for me, but it would have been cool to see is like a Pokemon battle. They had like fights, like the equivalent of me hitting you and then running away is like what they had in the movie, which is fine, but it would have been cool to see a little bit more. But it was I had so much fun watching this movie. I actually watched it again today for the second time, so thoroughly enjoyed that movie. A lot of fun, predictable story, great movie. What about you?
It's all right. Like I didn't love it. I don't think it's a horrible film, but I didn't grow up with Pokemon as much as you did. I'm a casual Pokemon fan. The only thing I really have a connection to as a child was the anime movies that they did. I liked those, and I had friends who collected Pokemon cards, but not necessarily me. But as a film, I think the script is horrible. I think, like you said, the story, I don't really care about predictability. That doesn't bother me, but I thought the story was just weak.
Okay.
I thought that the dialogue was awful for a lot of it. But the thing that sort of transcends this over that is the dynamic between Ryan Reynolds and Justice Smith, who I don't even really like as an actor, but I think he did okay in this film.
Yeah.
And
no, I agree with that. He just did okay.
I think as soon as Ryan Reynolds came into the movie, it completely just took off for me. The direction was pretty well done. The CGI was phenomenal. Like, I was genuinely shocked by how good the CGI was in the film. And
Oscar?
maybe nomination. I mean, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Christopher Robin got a nomination, and the CG was very similar.
Yeah, and the CG was great in that movie too. It all just depends on what else comes out.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that with everything else going on in that film, it was similar to Venom.
Okay.
In that I don't like the script of Venom. I didn't like the direction in Venom. I think it had some cool action scenes. But the dynamic between Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy, awesome. And whenever they're interacting like Venom and Eddie Brock, you're fine. You're in it. Although I give this movie a slight edge over Venom. I'm going to give Pokemon Detective Pikachu a B-, just because it is more fun than Venom. And I think that dynamic between Ryan Reynolds and Justice Smith is really awe-inspiring to see, like, how invested I just became into the movie whenever they interacted. Because literally whenever they were off screen or it slowed down for a second, I was just like, oh my god. Like
get them back on the screen.
Yeah, like I genuinely dislike the rest of the film. But not as much as Venom, because I think that this movie has better direction than Venom has.
Okay.
And I don't normally like to compare movies when I do reviews, but I just wanted to kind of like, I just like thinking of like how I felt similarly about a movie, and Venom was just the closest one to my mind. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually rated this movie 4.5 stars. So quite
really
the contrary to you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean I agree with you. I thought Justice Smith was just okay until Ryan Reynolds came on, and then he was better. His performance didn't blow my socks off or anything.
But he bounced off of Ryan very well.
Very well. And my God, there is a scene where he tries to cry. It is awful. Like, he cannot pull a tear out, and not because making yourself cry is one thing, but like he couldn't even tear up. But it's like that just kind of shows the extent of his acting abilities. Which, again, who the fuck am I to tell him? But no, I agree with you. Like, I'm just using that as an example of like his acting capabilities. Yeah, it didn't work for me. But Ryan Reynolds was phenomenal as Pikachu. Very cute. I would die for Detective Pikachu.
But yeah. So that pretty much wraps up our show today, man. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're listening on SoundCloud and iTunes, we thank you, but we also encourage you to listen on YouTube at youtube.com/Movie Nights. Please subscribe to the channel and follow us on Facebook at Movie Nights and Instagram and Twitter at Nights_movie. And also, we want to thank the Podcast City Network for hosting us and continuing to share our content. We really appreciate you guys. And is there anything else you want to add, Ryan?
Be cool.
All right. You can tune in on Thursdays for Franchise Spotlight and extra special videos on Saturdays. And we'll see you guys later.
Later.